In this video, we will be taking you through the contract performance notice, giving some background on when and how the notice is to be used and what information needs to be included when publishing one. The contract performance notice is covered in Section 40 of the Procurement Wales Regulations 2024 and serves two main functions. Firstly, the notice records the performance of the supplier against published KPIs. Before entering into a public contract with an estimated value of more than £5 million, a contracting authority will usually be required to set at least 3 KPIs in respect of the contract. A contracting authority may decide that KPIs are not relevant to a contract if it considers that the supplier's performance cannot be appropriately assessed through such indicators. In such cases, there is no obligation to set and publish KPIs. KPIs are not required to be published for certain types of contracts. These are frameworks, utilities contracts awarded by private utilities, concessions contracts, and light touch contracts. The second purpose of the notice is to record information relating to any serious breach of contract. However, the requirement to publish information relating to a serious breach of contract does not apply to private utilities or in relation to light touch contracts. The notice must be published at least once a year for contracts subject to the KPI requirements, and must also be published if there is a breach or failure to perform, except for light touch contracts. The publication of KPIs and information regarding breach of contract or failure to perform provides transparency to both contracting authorities and the public on supplier performance. This therefore provides contracting authorities with an objective source of information as to which suppliers are subject to the discretionary exclusion grounds for breach of contract and poor performance, and will allow authorities to better exercise their discretion in respect of this ground as a result. It is not a requirement for both KPI performance and serious breach of contract to be published on one notice, and this information can be published over multiple contract performance notices. The following information must be included when publishing a contract performance notice to report performance against KPIs, though please note that not all of this information will be required in all circumstances, and authorities should refer directly to the regulations and associated guidance, as this information is only being provided as a general guide to the notice requirements. The information is information about the contracting authority, the title of the procurement, the unique identifier relating to the procurement, the unique identifier relating to the contract, details of the key performance indicators set in accordance with Section 52 of the Act, a statement that the notice is being used to set out the contracting authority's assessment of performance against the key performance indicators, information about each supplier whose performance has been assessed, such as the supplier's name, contact postal address, and the unique identifier for the supplier. The contracting authority must also publish its assessment of supplier performance against the indicators in accordance with the ratings set out in paragraph 5 of Regulation 40. These ratings are good, approaching target, requires improvement, inadequate, or other. The contracting authority will also need to provide information on the time period to which the assessment applies. The following is a summary of the information required when completing contract performance notices to report any serious breach of contract as per Section 71 of the Act. The required information is information about the contracting authority, the title of the procurement, the unique identifier relating to the procurement, the unique identifier relating to the contract, information about each supplier who has committed the breach or failure to perform set out in the notice, such as the supplier's name, contact postal address, and the unique identifier for the supplier, information on the circumstances of the breach or failure to perform which has led to the notice being issued, a statement that the information is being published because the supplier has breached the public contract and the breach resulted in one of the events referred to in the Act, or that the supplier is not performing a public contract to the contracting authority's satisfaction. Where a breach occurred, whether the breach resulted in partial termination of the public contract, the award of damages, or a settlement agreement between the supplier and the contracting authority. Where the supplier is considered not to be performing the contract to the contracting authority's satisfaction, the date when the contracting authority considered that the supplier had failed to improve its performance. An explanation of the nature of the breach or failure to perform, including an explanation of the impact or consequences, the duration of the breach or failure to perform and whether it is ongoing, any steps taken by the supplier to mitigate the impact or consequences, any steps that the contracting authority has taken to notify the supplier of the breach or failure to perform and encourage them to improve the situation, including any warning notices given under the public contract, or any opportunity to improve performance, and what steps, if any, were taken by the supplier to improve the situation, and why these were not sufficient. Where the breach has resulted in partial termination of the public contract, a description of which part of or to what extent the contract has been partially terminated. Where there has been an award of damages or payment of other monies following the breach or failure to perform, confirmation that this is the case, the amount of damages or other monies, the basis on which any damages were awarded or other monies paid, and where there has been a recorded decision of a court or tribunal finding a breach, a link to the web page where the decision can be accessed, or a copy of the decision.